All right, Wolf. Well, the Suns end up playing 2 games since we did our last show. They go out, they play Detroit on Saturday. Detroit's a good team. Detroit's playing good basketball. You go into Detroit, you beat the Pistons 125-121. Nick Richards, monster performance, stepping in there in his first game as a Phoenix Sun. Goes out there, 21 points, 11 rebounds, shoots 87% from the field, 87.5%.
Yeah.
This is a pretty good start.
Yeah, absolutely. Threw his body around as well.
Mm-hmm.
Physical guy, not afraid to mix it up. Love what I'm seeing so far from Nick Richards.
And yesterday against Cleveland, 4 points, 4 rebounds, only played 22 minutes. And I would say even beyond the actual total of minutes, he was in foul trouble early, finished the game with 5 fouls. Just felt like he never really got going.
That kind of is, an area of concern. If you've got one area of concern right now, listen, Nick, you're going to play physical. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact you're going to play physical. You face a team that enjoys that physicality as well, and that's what the Cleveland Cavaliers are, a team that will mix it up. You got to know that we need you to be smart as well.
You got to be available.
You got to be available.
I was looking at this during the game to see when else this season he's really been in foul trouble. Sometimes game flow, you could have 4 fouls in the game and you were actually in foul trouble more than maybe it says. But I was just looking for games this season where he had 5 or 6 fouls. His only game where he fouled out was November 30th against Atlanta. And his only other game with 5 fouls was back on October 23rd against Houston. So at least statistically, he hasn't been in that position a lot. But also, you got to remember, the Suns are probably going to ask him to play more than maybe Charlotte was for good chunks of the season. There were games earlier this season where he was playing 30-plus minutes for Charlotte. There's also a lot of games that he didn't get into or that he played, 16 minutes or whatever. So, yeah, something to keep an eye on for sure because he was basically a non-factor yesterday.
Yeah, and, I really wanted to see Nick Richards go at it with Jared Allen.
Yeah.
Jared Allen, those two guys right there, very similar type players, I think. Really good around the glass. And Jared Allen, I think he's averaging double digits, 10 rebounds a game, somewhere in that vicinity right there. But he had 5 offensive boards in this game. Man, that's what you need out of Nick. That's what you need Nick Richards to do. And, he only played 22 minutes, as you said right there. They need him to be more valuable.
He was, though, in that game against Detroit, immediately impactful against the Pistons. And I'm not saying he's the reason they won the game, but I don't think they win the game without him. Again, Detroit, this is not the same Pistons team that we're used to over the last few years where the Pistons just aren't really good. And they are. They're a decent team now. And Nick Richards came up huge in that game. Here's Kevin Durant. This is courtesy of Dwayne Rankin talking about Nick Richards' debut.
Understood his role pretty quickly. Just making plays around the rim on both ends of the floor. Offensive back and forth. So I think he's great, man. Got to keep building on it and keep get more comfortable as each game goes past. It'll be fun.
Mike Budenholzer after the game yesterday.
Could you really hear that?
No.
I heard nothing. Go ahead.
I
heard nothing.
Now we've mixed music into
I heard
basketball
a bunch of basketballs. Yeah, man, let's go. Let's hoop it up.
I think Coach Bud is separate audio. Here we go.
No, he was so good there, and it's there's a lot being thrown at him right now. So, I don't know that it was how just our whole group didn't function well offensively, and so again, credit to their defense. We need to just be better, and Nick's going to grow, and I think there's going to be good opportunities for him.
I have to tell you right now, Coach Bud is smooth. He really is. He's very, very even and very consistent on his approach. We're talking about how even and consistent the intensity level is of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and it's one of the reasons why it makes them a great team. But Coach Bud, win or lose, he sounds exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I think that's not an accident.
I agree with you, and it's one of those things that it can help you navigate out of the first half of the season that the Suns have had where it's been disappointing. But it's also the sort of thing like the team probably needs that. You don't need a coach losing his mind every game right now. But at the same time, if you're a fan, you're looking at that and you're like, man, like he's even after every game. KD's even after every game. Book is fairly even, although you can kind of tell Book's a little irked after some of these games. I mean, you're just like, man, you're 21-21. Why isn't everybody angry right now? But you can't do that every night.
He's
You'll burn out.
35 bothered sometimes.
Book is like the
I'm
only
unbothered.
one. He's the one that kind of shows it a little bit. Yeah, 36 bothered.
But, you know, it does make me think, again, what goes on behind those doors? Because I do want to know what you know, hey, Coach, come here, bud. Do you ever, like, go off? That's what I'd love to ask him, like, privately, where he's not worried about what you're going to think publicly. Do you ever just, like, go off in front of these guys? Do you ever do it? Because I think a head coach needs to do that from time to time, like, lose it.
Well, how much pressure, and I don't mean like he's going to lose his job pressure. I don't mean that at all. But just how much pressure in general do you think he is internalizing right now? Because you were brought in to replace a coach who has won a title recently. Now, so has Coach Bud. But after one season of Frank Vogel, they're like, nope, we got to bring in Coach Bud. And I mean, if you just want to go by record, their record is worse right now than it was 42 games in the last season. So it's not. I'm not saying that's his fault. I'm not saying it's that big of a difference. It's 3 less wins, but it's not like they're putting up better results right now.
Right. See, that is the reason why I wonder what he is like as a coach in terms of yelling. From what I understand, he was more of a yeller, a guy that wasn't going to be afraid of confronting Kevin Durant or Devin Booker or Bradley Beal, for that matter, being able to walk up and saying with an elevated voice, this is what you got to do. You have to do this. Frank Vogel had the reputation of not being that guy. So when Frank Vogel started yelling, everyone was like, oh, dude, what are you doing? It's the Cliff Kingsbury thing. Once again, where Cliff was saying, you know what, I didn't lay that foundation and the culture, and this is who we are, and this is what we're going to be, and if you're not willing to do it, get out. You know, and all of a sudden Cliff was trying to do that midway through his tenure here. Yeah. And you can see what problems that could create. Well, the same thing, I think. That's why I wonder if Coach Bud is more of a, hey, man, what are you doing? You know, is he willing to go there?
Yeah.
And I'm sure he is.
He was willing to bench Bradley Beal or, play him off the bench. Benching it's such a weird way to say it in the NBA. Like, oh, you're going to bench him, but he's still going to play 30 minutes. He's not really benched, but he was willing to move a guy that had started every game he had played since 2016 to the bench just a couple weeks ago. I still think overall that is working. I think that move made them better. I think the trade for Nick Richards made them better. Yeah. But yesterday's game shows just how far they have to go. If they were whatever, if
which really bums me out.
It's disappointing.
Disappointing to see that the lack of consistency in terms of their play. They came out, they were right there after a quarter, going out and playing with them, and they were right there. And then the telltale sign of time took over, and suddenly the Cavs were the better team. Suns had a lot of talented players. Cavs were a talented team.
Yeah, they look like a team that's been playing together for a long time, which, they've been playing together for a little while, but that's, I don't know. Disappointing is the best way to put it. We're looking for all these little things, right? Okay, well, maybe they move Bradley Beal to the bench. Okay, well, you go out and get Nick Richards. Okay, maybe they still have another move coming up. And then Cleveland comes along and you're like, they are so far away from what the original goal was. It's not like if they turn this season around and they take somebody out in the first round of the playoffs. I mean, that would be remarkable right now. It's not like the season would end at that point. We'd all be like, man, what a successful season. I'm sure Matt Ishbia is like, hey, I didn't pay for a second round exit. Matt Ishbia paid for a championship, and you go out and lose by 26 to Cleveland. Yeah, I don't even know what my point was, but it wasn't positive.
Thanks for watching Wolf and Luke. Tap to see more and click the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.